stand between me and home. Not even the gods.
Keep us straight!
Hold on a second. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what I thought. Guys, I just got done reading the Iliad and the Odyssey, and I can now confirm to all of you watching this video that Christopher Nolan's new film, The Odyssey, is woke garbage. Nah, I'm just kidding. Well, first of all, you guys know I can't read. But second, I did go see The Odyssey yesterday, which was my most anticipated film for the entire year of 2026. It's directed by the great Christopher Nolan, and he did not disappoint me. I had such a good time watching this film on the biggest screen that I could watch it on. So let's do the review for The Odyssey. So The Odyssey stars Matt Damon as the character of Odysseus, and at the beginning of this film, we open up with the sacking of Troy. Now, we don't get to see all of it right at the beginning. They do show us more of it later on, but you get the gist of it. The Trojan horse is brought into the city. This was all Odysseus's plan, and then the plan goes off very well as the soldiers break out of the horse, kill the guards, let in the rest of the army as they sack, pillage, and burn Troy to the ground. And really where our story begins is Odysseus and his men leaving Troy, heading back home, not knowing that this very long journey that they're about to go on will have them encounter monsters, witches, and even the wrath of the gods themselves. And while all of that is going on, we are then transported to Odysseus's home to see the state of the kingdom that he left behind. We also find out that he left behind his wife Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and he left behind his son Telemachus, who was a baby when he left but is now grown into a man, and he is played by Tom Holland. And in this film, you see as the two of them are trying to find out if Odysseus is still alive, while also trying to keep his throne protected, because all of these suitors, led by Robert Pattinson's character, have made their way into the kingdom and are trying to get Penelope's hand in marriage, really because they want to become the new king in Odysseus's absence. And that is the best synopsis that I can give you for The Odyssey. If that sounds like a fun time, well then you should definitely go check this out on the biggest screen possible. I am so very happy that I saw this on a big screen. As much as I love watching movies down here in my movie theater room, nothing beats seeing something on the big screen, and this movie absolutely deserves it. Now, I am going to get into my positives and my negatives for The Odyssey here in a second, but before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for The Odyssey.
And then what? We won the war. Help me go home.
So this is normally where I'd get into my positives and then get into my negatives, and I am going to get into those. But before I do that, I want to cover some of the controversy surrounding this film. I don't typically cover controversy on this channel. Typically, I just talk about the movie itself, the positives, the negatives. I leave all that controversy for controversy channels, and that's not what my channel's about. But I feel like if I don't cover this, someone will go into the comments section and call me a shill, call me a paid reviewer, which, by the way, I can be bought. But yeah, they'll call me one of those two things. They'll be upset that I didn't talk about this, so I'm going to give my honest opinion on these controversial casting decisions. The first controversial casting decision is Elliot Page being cast as Sinon, a male soldier that is under the leadership of Odysseus in the film, and the other controversial casting decision is Lupita Nyong'o being cast as Helen of Troy. People were very upset about Helen of Troy being cast as a black woman instead of a white woman, and of course Elliot Page used to go by Ellen Page, so now that Elliot Page has been cast as a male soldier, people were very upset about that. And I'm here to say that all of the hype and all of the anger online leading up to this movie, it was really all for nothing. These two characters in this film are important to the film, but neither one of these specific actor or actress has more than 5 minutes of screen time. In my opinion, changing out the race or changing out the actor would not have made a difference to the story at all in the story that Christopher Nolan was telling. People were very upset because historically Helen of Troy has been cast as a white woman. If this is about the Greeks, it probably was a white woman that was being referenced originally, but Christopher Nolan was going for something different different. Christopher Nolan did not use the armor, something else people complained about online that the Greeks used. He didn't use the same boats that would have been used during that time period. He made it look more theatrical. He made it look different. This is his version of the Odyssey. And so casting Lupita Nyong'o, a black woman, as Helen of Troy is Christopher Nolan's version of the Odyssey. And the race of the actress playing Helen of Troy does not make a difference to the film. Elliot Page being cast as Sinon, a very important character to the film, but again, a character that didn't get even 5 minutes of screen time. I don't understand the controversy because neither one of these actor or actress, if you switch them out with other people, change the movie at all. Again, like I said, I'm only going to cover this once, and so my closing thoughts on this are that all the anger, all the controversy online, it was an absolute nothing burger. Both of them did a great job in the film. They were both in it for a very limited amount of time. And again, if you swapped either of them out with other actors or actresses, you would have gotten the same result. But I've talked about it. I've given you guys my opinion. Let's move on to my positives and my negatives. My first positive for this movie is the cinematography. It is an absolute gorgeous movie to look at. Another reason to see this on the biggest screen that you possibly can, because anywhere that Odysseus and his crew go throughout this film, it is just beautiful to look at, whether that's the beaches, the forests, the mountains, the ocean itself, anywhere they are. Oh, the cinematography is beautiful. My next positive for this movie is the score. I thought Ludwig Göransson, who composed the music for this film, did such a fantastic job. The music is beautiful throughout. It fits the time period that they're going for as well. Each scene has something unique about it, whether it's the visuals or the score of this film. And of course, anytime Odysseus strikes his bow, there's a theme that goes along with that every single time. Like every time Odysseus strikes his bow in the film, there's a theme that plays with it, and it's just beautiful. The music also plays into the tension, like most movies, but as the tension ramps up in the film, so does the music in the film, and I think the composer did such a great job scoring this film. Next up, we've got to talk about the acting, because so many people give great performances throughout this film. I will not be surprised when Oscars season comes around if so many of the actors and actresses within this film are up for awards and even win many of them, because so many of them do a great job. And I'm not just talking about the main cast. Of course, Matt Damon gives a phenomenal performance, maybe his best. Anne Hathaway gives a great performance. Tom Holland gives a great performance. Robert Pattinson gives a great performance. They all do a very good job, but then there's side characters in this film that go above and beyond. John Leguizamo is the first one that comes to mind. He gives a performance that I will not be surprised if it wins a Best Supporting Actor. It's just a great performance. And then John Bernthal is in this movie, and he gives a John Bernthal performance, but I like what John Bernthal brings to the table, so I enjoyed his performance. Mia Goth has a limited role in this film, but she gives a great performance. Benny Safdie, Charlize Theron, and Zendaya also give great performances in this film. Honestly, every main character, every side character, everyone gives 100% of themselves throughout this film, and I think a lot of that is giving credit to Christopher Nolan as the director, pulling those performances out of these great actors and actresses. And the final thing I'll say about the acting is that this film is very dialogue heavy. We're telling a story to you, the viewer. It's very choppy in places, and so you need these actors and actresses to give you these great performances so that you go along with the story that's being told. And again, I just think that every one of them does a great job. My next positive is something that I really didn't anticipate going into this film, and that is watching Christopher Nolan weave a level of horror into this film that I didn't see coming. I mean, I knew there were going to be monsters along the way. I knew there was a Cyclops at one point, but Christopher Nolan has never really tackled the horror genre, and I thought he did a great job tackling the horror genre within this film. Now, I've already mentioned the Cyclops, but that was a great moment of horror when it shuts the door to the cave and those men are trapped in there. But there's also moments where they encounter a witch, and there's a moment where they encounter a sea monster, and then there's just the wrath of the gods in general. Anytime Christopher Nolan wants to ramp up the horror in this film as these men make their journey home, I think he does it really well. And my final positive to this movie is the emotional depth to the story and the characters within this film. Now, Christopher Nolan usually does a great job tying all of those emotional connections together, and he does it again here, and it's definitely worth mentioning because you've got these emotional relationships in the film that I think he does a great job with. That would be the romantic angle between both Penelope and Odysseus, or you've got the father-son bond between both Odysseus and his son, or even Odysseus and his dog. There's a very emotional bond between them, how this dog can't die until Odysseus makes it home, and it's such a beautiful story just between them. So while you've got these character relationships that have so much emotional depth, you also have the story itself, about the sacking of Troy and how doing that, burning Troy to the ground, breaking Zeus's law in the first place, has changed the entire world. Now these sea people have risen up and they've started to sack and plunder their way home. And it turns out by the end of this film, the sea people are not what Odysseus thought. And it's just this great emotional story. And when it all hits Odysseus in the end of the story, it's such an emotional, impactful moment. And I also want to tag into this emotional positive that there's a moment in this movie that made me sit on the edge of my seat till the end of the film. And that moment is right about the 2-hour mark when Odysseus is asked by John Leguizamo's character, "Are you going to bring vengeance?" And he says, "I'm going to bring it all." And from that point on, I was locked into this movie. It moved as quickly as it could. Those last 50 minutes had me on the edge of my seat, and it was such an emotional journey and an emotional ride. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to get into my negatives. And my first negative for this movie is that the story is told in a bit of a jarring way that does take a bit of time to catch its balance. Now, I just said that at the 2-hour mark, Nolan is absolutely locked in, and I believe that, but I do feel like the balance of how they're telling the story really takes about 30 to 40 minutes to really sit with you. Now, I've only seen this movie once. Maybe on a second viewing it won't be as jarring, but as my first viewing, and this is my review for my first viewing of this film, I will say that it was a bit jarring, sort of being shot back and forth to different places and just being filled in on so many different things. It does eventually catch its balance, and Nolan tells a great story, and again, that last hour is so goddamn good, but it does take its time, and that's a negative. Speaking of taking its time, I feel like the movie takes a little too much time with Odysseus on an island with Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, throughout the second act of this movie. Those moments between them, they seem to slow the pace of this movie down. Like, you're in it for the journey. You're watching as Odysseus and his crew are trying to make their way home, but we keep moving to this moment where Odysseus is on this island with this character Calypso, and he doesn't know what happened. He doesn't know where he's supposed to be. He's almost got a clouded mind. And I'm not saying that's not important to the story, but anytime they go to that in this movie, it does slow the pace of this film down. And when you have a 3-hour movie, slowing the pace down is not a very good thing. Now, eventually, just like my first negative, those things balance out. You understand why those scenes with Calypso are necessary, but those scenes are just so slow paced and so out of pace with the rest of the film that it does start to take you out of the movie in the second act of this film. And my final negative is that while we did get some great action moments in this film, one moment between Odysseus and his son inside of a temple, or one moment with Odysseus towards the end of the movie against all of the different suitors, like, those are some really fun moments of action. I was a bit disappointed with how we were shown the burning of Troy. Now, I know it's been done in other movies, so what Christopher Nolan does in this movie is he splices that up throughout the entire movie, almost sort of teasing you with the sacking and destroying of Troy as the movie goes along, but we never got what I felt like was a battle moment in that time period. Like, we just get these little snips of it, like, this is them getting out of the horse, this is them opening the gate, this is them running up the steps, but all of that was taken through different moments of the film, and that did annoy me. I wish we could have gotten a longer scene of that taking of Troy. And while it is in my negatives and it is a disappointing thing in this movie, maybe it's something I'll forgive on future viewings. Overall though, guys, I had a great time watching this movie. I had such a fun time seeing this on a big screen. I can't wait to watch this again. I did watch it on an AMC XL screen, and I think I'd like to watch it on an IMAX screen, so maybe that's something I'll do in the next couple of weeks. But guys, those are just my opinions because that's my review for the Odyssey. Have you guys had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in that comment section down below. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, where we agree or we don't agree. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of my review for the Odyssey, my #1 most anticipated film of 2026, and it did not disappoint. As of right now, it's my favorite movie that I've seen in 26, although there's some big movies still left to come out, so we'll see where it ends up at the end of the year. As always, guys, if you like this video and you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my 2026 movie reviews right there, and I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.